First time I've heard this all year.
Welcome return, that sucker. I'm turning out my laptop to hear louder.
Very missed your style there, Dan. It's good to see you.
Good to see you. What is the time limit for a copyright infringement? What do you got? What do you watch the clock there?
Apparently, they say 15 seconds. That's what I hear.
All right, I think we push the limit sometimes.
So I think so. We haven't had any strikes, but it may be because our last show, Tay showed up and she was there for us.
Yeah.
And she had no objections to Christmas Tree Farm. We did not get a strike for Christmas Tree Farm.
Good.
I was very happy about that.
Don't make Tay angry. Don't make Santa angry. That's all I got to say.
No, not good. Well, Dan, I haven't seen you. I haven't seen you since last year. How have you been? How are things in Dan's world?
I've been doing the New Year's resolution, getting in shape thing, and back kind of running slowly, getting my lift on. I know you get your lift on too.
I always like lifting. I only run if someone's chasing me.
Do you get chased a lot?
No, that's why I don't run that much.
Not even for like the hot takes that we do on the show. You never see somebody like, "I'm gonna get you."
You never know. You never know.
This is American soccer.
All the hey, I can't outrun soccer fans. Maybe Cleveland Brown fans, armchair quarterbacks, yes. Soccer fans, no. They're all in shape.
The other thing I did since our last show is I voted for the Hall of Fame.
Oh,
and my Hall of Fame vote. We couldn't do the live show where I checked the boxes, but that is
that was we were on our hiatus, huh? So you've already voted. When was it due?
Show, but maybe the next show, maybe because we'll know the results by the next show. I'll go through kind of what my thinking was, but I mean, see if I can run. I voted for 10.
Okay.
I'm not necessarily like, they talk about you're a large hall guy, you're a small hall guy. Like, it will never be. You're never gonna have a huge wave of like 6 people being inducted. There are people who I like to see get a little momentum. There's some people I vote for just to get more time on the ballot. Because you see the tragedy of baseball voting tragedy. Kenny Lofton should be a Hall of Famer, but he made his debut on the ballot in a very crowded year. They had a lot of it was Clemens, Bonds, Palmeiro back when nobody knew what to do with the steroid people, and Lofton got like 3% of the vote. And if you look at his numbers now, if you look at WAR, if you look at Jaws, which is one of my favorite Hall of Fame voting benchmarks, he's clearly a Hall of Famer. And the guy didn't last through. You got to get 5% of the votes, 5% of the voting for that year to survive for a second ballot, and he didn't do it. It's incredible. So I always think of that when I vote for guys who are a little bit on the fringe. It's for that reason. Let's think about it. Yeah,
that's some big brain stuff right there. I used to love Kenny Lofton.
Yeah.
He would literally lock up stolen bases in my fantasy baseball category. Just himself.
Yeah. Oh, incredible. And defensive play, had a little pop for a guy who ran that much. He was not a Pat Listach. Pat Listach. One home run.
Pat Listach. Yes. I remember that guy.
Pierre was not, he had, Lofton had some legit extra base stuff going on. We got Sugar visiting here.
Oh, hey, Sugar Ray. How's it going? Good to see you in 2026. Juan Pierre, the definition of light hitter. He was fast, though.
Yeah, he was fast. So the Athletic, I worked for the Athletic. I didn't write the sucker, but I read it. Read the heck out of it. Chad Jennings did an incredible story on how few center fielders in the Hall of Fame. And it was some crazy stat like 22 of the 24 center fielders in the Hall of Fame made their debut before 1952. The ones since then have been Griffey and Puckett, but everybody else is like, it's incredible.
Where's my boy Dan Gladden?
Where is your guy Dan Gladden?
Dan, I'm going to hold you accountable. You have Hall of Fame votes. I don't.
But so, some of the things that were happening, like they have been so part of the premise of the story is like Beltran and Andrew Jones are the 2 players with the best chance to make it this year, and they would kind of end that streak and give center fielders some respect. But
good.
Lofton got robbed. Jim Edmonds has been historically underappreciated when you look at his numbers. Freddie Lynn, Dale Murphy, those guys had spectacular peaks, but not the duration. And Fred Lynn was interviewed for the story. He said, "Look, in center field, you are banging into walls. You are covering tons of ground. You are colliding with other outfielders. Decent center fielders don't last that long." So,
yeah. Jim Edmonds, that was I mean, he lasted a long time. And then he went on reality TV, Dan. I don't know if you know that. He went on reality TV. He was like in one of those housewife things. I don't know. He's going out with one of those housewives. Anyways, I saw him on reality TV. I said, Jim Edmonds, he should have propped up his Hall of Fame. You know, he wasn't good in marketing there, Dan.
What's funny about that is I just saw a side-by-side comparison of Jeff Kent, whose numbers got him in this year, versus Edmonds, and Edmonds was better across the board, and Jeff Kent was on Survivor. So
there you go.
Maybe that was a better showcase for your Hall of Fame candidacy.
I just marketing, right? We're all walking billboards. And Dan, speaking of 2026, this is a much bigger year.
Yeah,
we have lots on deck for our show.
Yeah,
we're going to grow our viewership. We're going to be a household name. Now, one of the things that we're going to start doing is inviting special guests on. We're going to talk to them. So in the sports, in sports world, in the journalism world, I'm sure we can gin up some old journalists out there that would love to join us.
They're ginned up, believe me.
We can gin them up. We might have to have the journalists on at happy hour, 6 p.m., and our sports guys come on now.
Yeah,
okay. Good? Okay.
Yeah.
Now we're starting it this week. We have an amazing special guest. Known this guy a long time. I believe he was in one of our fantasy baseball leagues, Dan. Maybe at the end of the pill era or when you were maybe. I don't know. I can't remember. You know, I haven't eaten that many blueberries that, you know, I can remember all these things. But all I know is this person knows a ton about baseball. He's very funny. I think he's one of the
excited for this.
Yeah. And his name is Mr. Mike Gimbel. Let's bring Mike.
Let's bring him in.
Stage. Let's see if this works.
There he is.
There he is.
Hey, Mike, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, let me adjust that camera so I get into the picture a little bit.
There you go.
Hi there. Thanks for inviting me here.
Very good to have you. Welcome to It's These Guys. This is These Guys. Well, you know me. And there's Dan over there. I don't know if we ever played in any fantasy baseball league, but I might be misremembering that.
Oh, we were in a number of leagues together in your fantasy league. I remember you wondering why I brought up this young kid, Dustin Pedroia, to draft.
Yeah, who's that?
Yeah, all you guys say, well, who's that? Yeah. I never heard of him.
That's funny. Pedroia is from Woodland. Troy, you should have known him. He was right by Davis. You were right. You probably passed the green mark.
Well, you know what I would do is Mike was in my Field of Dreams league, and I was in your league, Dan, Pen and Ink league. Mike would go and grab somebody like Miguel Tejada. He's drafting this guy who isn't even in A ball or double A ball. So then I write that down. I read his scouting report. Holy crap, this guy's going to be awesome. So then I'd go and draft him in Pill, whereas Mike had them all in Field of Dreams. It's kind of terrible there.
Mike, I have a question for you out of the gate, because once I heard you were the special guest, this was the first thing that came to mind. But you were that early wave, real pioneer in terms of statistical analysis in baseball. How would you compare? I mean, when you look around at the modern landscape of what front offices look like now, where it's so data driven, and what was once fringe is now the mainstream, how do you reflect on the evolution?
It's incredible, because I came in at the time of the dinosaur, essentially. And I was viewed as somebody from Mars with strange numbers, you know. And it was pretty easy picking for me for when I was advising Montreal and Boston, because the front offices, they didn't know anything about data. So we were able to pick off players from other people's benches and everything that were really good players from the minor leagues and so on. I was there when we stole Pedro Martinez from the Dodgers. We're at the Golden Glove Award dinner at the Sheraton. We're there. My numbers say wow. The Dodgers needed a second baseman, Delino DeShields. So we're sitting there. Dan goes down to talk to Lasorda downstairs, comes back up, slams his hand on the table, says, "We got him." And I'm watching Lasorda across the way, schmoozing with all of the reporters. And I'm saying to myself, you just don't know what you just did. You don't have a clue. And we did it twice, 2 years in a row, because the other year we got Wetland out of their minor league system too, for a three-way deal where we sent Willie Green to Cincinnati, and we got and the Dodgers, Cincinnati sent somebody to the Dodgers, and Dodgers sent us their minor league pitcher named John Wetland.
With Pedro and Wetland too, for that matter, do you remember what numbers you were looking at that were?
I did. I don't know if you know my books and everything. I have my own formula. It's the RPA formula, which is till today I think still the best. Frankly speaking, WAR is great compared to what used to be, but it is way off. It is way off. The most egregious one was a few years ago. Robbie Ray's a good pitcher. He's not a great pitcher, but he got the Cy Young because his numbers looked great. The only problem was when I did my analysis, he was the fifth best pitcher on his own team that year. And he got the Cy Young. Okay, so So to me, the WAR is nice, but it's not based on actual proper analysis. I think modern data is so fantastic. What's done with the spin rate and all that stuff, I could never have imagined when I started out that stuff that is just incredible. And they now analyze player performance better than they ever did. Because back then it was easy, as I said, it was easy pickings to grab somebody from the minor leagues, from the bench, whatever, and we could do great wonders. But now teams are able to better evaluate their players within a certain narrow range. However, they don't know how to put a team together. They still don't know how to do that and how to evaluate how the player fits in with the team. Up until this year, I stopped doing my analysis, full analysis this year. But up until last year, I was doing the full balance analysis of all the teams, and you could see when teams made their trades or made their signings that they didn't understand, the value of the player first of all, and they didn't understand how the player fit in. So that even today, with all that data and all that analysis, they still don't see the picture of the player in his full amount and how he fits into the team. So, for instance, I was always, amused at how misunderstood certain players were, because on-base percentage, when I spoke at Sabre about 30 years ago, and I showed how a real on-base ability is what determines run scoring. Okay, that's what you can deal with home runs, you can deal with all the individual data, but your run scoring for a team, you can play the numbers all different ways, but that is the one item that determines really scoring on the team. And so you have a guy like Brandon Nimmo, who came out in the Mets, a real great on-base player in his years, and and at one point early on, the Mets were actually thinking of trading him, and I have him rated the number one center fielder in the MLB, period. Because of his tremendous way he produced runs through the setup. And now in recent years, I think the Mets wanted him to go away from that to get more power. Mm-hmm. So he hasn't dropped. He didn't drop fully, but he dropped out of that top area, now, because this is, so you watch what teams do, and you say, that was a smart trade. That's a smart trade. And then this trade, what were they thinking? What were they thinking? I mean, it's so. Anyways, that's how I look at what's happening now. I mean, Dodgers signing Kyle Tucker. Are they trying to rub the face of the rest of the league in it?
Terrible, 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 terrible.
I mean, what do you want? I mean, it's like ridiculous.
4 years, $240 million. The Dodgers' tax burden in 2025 was $164 million. That was more than the payroll of 15 teams. The Baltimore Orioles are at number 15 with $162 million. So literally their payroll was as much as the Dodgers' tax.
It's what has, the problem with baseball is they have the heritage of being the oldest pro sport, really, and so their cartel is based on individual local businesses, whereas if you look at the NFL, they have the monetary generation is spread across the league, so you can have a Green Bay, which it can be a powerful organization over many years on a small market. Because that cartel was designed around the television revenue. Because prior to private television, the NBA and NFL weren't anything really much. It's all baseball. But they were created in the TV area, so they had how their generated money was different. Mm-hmm. But the baseball is stuck in that old area. So you have the old, like the Babe Ruth era with the New York Yankees could dominate for decade because they're the big market, and you're still in that today because essentially in the American League the Yankees, nationally the Dodgers, they kind of run the leagues, and you have the Pittsburghs and your Kansas Cities and the smaller having to figure
Oakland
out
A's.
Yeah, well, take Tampa Bay. Here's a team that with no money always contends, pretty much. That shows that brains and technology actually works, because this is an industry, and in the industry, technology, the ones with the best technology are going to be the most successful. So that shows the importance of the technology, and it shows the importance of the brains. But if you have enough money, you can just buy, and that's what the Dodgers and the Yankees do. Let's buy the league, and so. But that's a trap, because actually one of the reasons the NBA and the NFL are more popular is because all the teams have a chance. In the baseball, they're kind of killing their own market to some extent, because they're killing lots of markets. All the markets that the fans we have no hope markets, So
I wanted to ask you guys. You guys are both baseball guys, so I wanted to pose this question to both of you guys. When we see things like that, obviously Kyle Tucker, good for him, man. I'm not going to hate on that guy.
Oh, that's great.
Got the 4 years. But do you guys think it is hurting baseball, and ultimately it will hurt the players if people just stop going? What do you think?
Well, I mean, does it hurt baseball? No, because they still get tons of money from the revenue when you got Shohei and all those guys, and the television revenues are through the roof, and the ratings for the World Series last year were incredible. It was an incredible World Series. Right. But for fans who live in the cities almost any other city now, because the real title contenders is down to such a short list. It hurts. Like, you want to go to the game for the atmosphere, great. If you want to root for a World Series, you're probably out of luck. And I think that's a bit. You go back and look at the '80s and the World Series winners. There's like a random team like Phillies, Orioles, Royals, Twins, Braves. That's not going to happen again in the 2000s and
Royals.
Yes. Well, it's a problem that I don't see how they can solve it, because when Montreal in '94 had the best team in baseball, and I was advising both the Red Sox and Montreal, and had been for some time with Montreal, and Claude Brochu, the owner of Montreal, was one of the key owners that caused that lockout. It wasn't really a strike. The owners had put up essentially a forced situation where the players could not strike in the middle of winter. They were in a disaster. They had to strike when they did, because of how it was set up. And the owners pushed between the White Sox owner and Brochu. They were key. And the real thing was, their real opponent was the Yankees, but they were too afraid of taking on the Yankees, because the money. So in order to solve their financial situation, they went against the players, because they took it out on the players. And I'm in Montreal. I was when I thought, Duquette was over in Boston by now, but he had been working for Brochu. I'm talking to Duke. Can't you talk to Brochu? He's going to kill Montreal. This is the team that's making the team in Montreal. The fans are coming out like, you're going to kill the team, because it was clear that after this lockout, they would have to tear the team apart. And we had the best team in baseball. We had blown past Atlanta in August. I mean, just blown past them. We were not losing hardly any games. And it was set up. We were the best team in baseball. And we had all that young talent. But they were so determined. They were so afraid of taking on the big guys, especially the Yankees, that they would with the alternate, which was to take on the players.
And Mike, in terms of the statistical revolution, there's so much focus on Moneyball and Billy Beane and those early 2000s A's teams. What would a movie have been like of those Expos teams, or the Red Sox for that matter, when it was really on the vanguard? Like, could you have made a movie of those teams that you were advising?
In both cases, we took over the teams that were in last place and immediately contended very first year. Okay, we were last place when Duquette became GM in October. We made our deals and so on. And in fact, the only reason we, I don't know, see, the years now go into I think that was the year that we finished second behind the Pirates. And it was when, the knuckleballer, Wakefield, when the Pirates brought up Wakefield. At that point, we were about to pass Pittsburgh to take first place, because Pittsburgh only had like 2 real starters. And when Wakefield came up and he had those first 1 game or 2 games, I called up Dan and said, it's over. There's no way we're catching him, because the whole reason we were going to catch him is they didn't have the depth of the starting pitching. Okay. And so, but we would have won had we made the deal in the winter that I had urged. And this deal that didn't happen is what solidified me with Duquette. What happened was there was a player down in AA in the Oakland, and I saw that he was not invited to Oakland's spring training. And I even wrote, I think I mentioned in my book, why is he invited? He's the number 1 hitter in all of AA. He's the number 1 hitter in all of AA. Troy Neal, I don't know if you remember him.
Oh
Okay.
yeah.
He went to Japan, during the strike. Okay. And never came back. So here I have him. Montreal made the trade because we had traded Galarraga away because he had several poor years. Now my numbers showed that, and we got our top starter that helped us contend that year from St. Louis, and we made the trade with Oakland for Troy Deal. The trade was done when our scouts in the minor league said he can't hit above AA and vetoed it. That summer, with us having all kinds of garbage at first base, all that year, which if we had tried it, we would have won the division. He was still hitting over 400 at AAA in August. He won He won Pacific Coast League batting title in the best pitchers park in the Pacific Coast League in Tacoma. Okay, so and then he came up in September rather, and his RPA numbers at AA, at AAA, and in the major league were identical. It wasn't just that it was. Wow. It was like that. My numbers were exact same pair, so that's a little with me with Troy with Duquette because he knows he lost the pennant by the scouts, and I was right. They were wrong.
Troy O'Neill's first full season, 1993, when he got extended playing time, hit 290, 19 homers, 63 RBIs, 840 OPS, 131 OPS plus, and finished 7th in Rookie of the Year voting.
Wow.
Okay, so the thing is that was easy pickings back then. You couldn't do that now. I think all these statistical data analysis of the play, they would have recognized Troy Neal. I think that this as a legitimate major league player. But as I said, the difference now, even though 95% of what they do in the major leagues and data analysis is far better and far beyond anything I ever thought of at that time. Yeah. However, that one key ingredient that is still missing is how to put it all together, understanding the whole player and so on. That and the WAR drives me crazy. The WAR ratings, I'm sorry.
Fake news? The wars are fake?
It's far better than what used to be.
Yeah.
Oh, he batting average winner, or
batting average, right?
Yeah, or the home run total is, but without WAR tries to take in the whole player. WAR does try to take in the whole, and partially does that, but it does so like a three-wheeled car. I don't know. It's missing a tire. It's
not riding as smooth. So you talk about the art and the science of it. The science obviously is the numbers, and the art is, do these guys fit as a team together? I think football does a great job of doing that. Do you see any metrics that you can use, or are there any leading metrics that would indicate chemistry on a team?
Well, I don't deal with chemistry. Obviously, that's not my thing. I'm the data person. Okay, data chemistry is all I want to know when I'm data. What did the player do? How was both offense, defense, pitching, so on. All I want to know is to see what the data shows, what the results are. Once you adjust for all the controls, and you have to have controls, of course. And so once you do all that, I'm not concerned whether a guy's a nice guy or a bad guy. I don't care if Jeff
no ego.
I don't care if Jeff Kent is a nice guy, bad guy. All I know is when he was down in AA for Toronto, I had him spotted. I loved him. I loved his numbers. And when the Mets traded him away, I was like, what kind of dummy trade was that?
Remember you told me. I remember that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm like, you're saying, oh, his defense is terrible. No, his defense was below average, minor league below average. Okay. So, you can't, you can't compare that to what he brings you with that kind of power at second base, that kind of offense at second. We're not talking about first base. He has first baseman's power at second base.
Mm-hmm.
You trade that away? I mean, it was like, well, I mean, it wasn't like it was a flash in the pan at the major league level. I had him as AA. I already pointed him out. This kid's going to be good. So, and then you see a trade like that, and you say, what were they thinking? Were they responding to the media? The New York media is very powerful, who's saying he's such a terrible defensive, he's a terrible defensive, he's a terrible. And I'm saying, you're paying attention to the wrong people.
Yeah.
The media don't know nothing. The media.
Wait a minute, back.
Dan, did you hear that, Dan?
So I had to deal with a little situation there. The media knows nothing. What the heck?
You came back from that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the media, and quite often the field staff know nothing. We had, when we came to Boston, our third baseman Cooper was an all-star third. We had an all-star third baseman. Was
it Scott Cooper?
Scott Cooper. Yeah,
Huh.
Scott Cooper. And Scott Cooper. Yeah, he disappeared pretty fast after we traded him. I had him rated below average both defensively and offensively. And he's the all-star player. Everybody thinks he's great. I said, we can get a lot in a trade for this guy. Let's trade him because he's not good. Okay. We had a manager we inherited, got rid of pretty quickly. So I went down to meet with the manager down at Fenway Park downstairs. And I guess he knew that I was saying, we got to trade Scott Cooper. And I met him. He comes out from his office to meet me. Because I think he was ready to actually, he had to battle me. Okay. So I hardly get a word out. He's talking about Scott Cooper, the greatest thing in the world. Name me a single better defensive third baseman. I started listening. Wade Boggs.
You started to listen.
I'm starting to listen to go right down the list of the better. And he's just, and he wouldn't listen. And Cooper was actually named by the coaches, the major league managers, as the best the defensive third baseman in the American League at that time. And of course, when we traded him away mid-season, St. Louis got rid of him. They realized what they had. It's like, but it's reputation. They're all going by reputation. Data changes all that. Data says, well, maybe if you examined the data a little bit more carefully and compared the player defensively to the player on the other side defensively on the same field on the same day, you'll find you'll find a different picture. Same way with Ozzie Smith. If you read the book, the stuff prior to what I would do, Ozzie Smith, when you looked at the data defensively, you didn't see the numbers. When I did the numbers for Ozzie Smith, wow, was he great. Okay, but the point is, he was on playing on that plastic on the AstroTurf, and so it's different playing surface. You had to compare him to the other players playing on the AstroTurf. Okay, on the same games, and then you see what he fielded versus what they fielded, and the same way on the road. versus on the road. And then you saw, once you look at it properly at the data, you saw that Ozzie Smith, even when he was 37, when he was at his end, was still a great, sensational defensive player. But you had to know how to do the defensive rating, because every field is different. Take Fenway in left field or right field or infield. The older infields are harder to play. The new modern ballparks, the infields are better to play, not just for the ground, but the backgrounds. The backgrounds in these older stadiums mean for you to see the ball when you're playing defense may be different as well. So you when you're looking at defense, you have to. That's all park adjusted. It's all position adjusted. And you have to. And you're looking at that, and you can only compare it to the player opposite him on that same field at the same day. Okay, you can't. If you just take your number, center field in this is all the same. Or it ain't. That's not true. It's completely not true. So you have a situation where you have to. Everything has to have controls when you're doing data. Data is not just data. Okay, you have to find a way to eliminate the noise, to eliminate the apps, the stuff that really does not apply to this player. And you have to also understand that parks play differently year to year. Not just the weather alone is huge, but parks also, they fool around with their grounds, with their how they
the air conditioning, right? Minnesota, they turn the air on.
Or they move like they're moving the fences in Kansas City.
Kansas City,
yeah. Every year, but the weather is the biggest thing. Weather. This is not like in the NBA. You have this exact, everything's perfect. All the baseball parks are different, and that makes baseball more interesting. You don't want parks all looking the same, because then you create, and you have, and elevation makes a big difference. That's Colorado, but also how close you are to a body of water changes how a ball flies. So every park has its own curiosities, and you can only do a park adjustments year by year. If you smush the years together, you smushed your data together. So it's incredible how parks can play differently year to year. In Wrigley, if the wind is blowing in most of the year or it's blowing out, it's a different park.
Hey, Troy and I grew up going to Candlestick Park. You don't need to tell us about the wind affecting a game being no close to a body of water.
Yes, it makes a freaking big difference.
So Troy's always been a little hot takes at some point in this program. So I want to jump in and ask, during your era, whatever really time frame you choose, who would you vote? Who comes to mind as super overrated and underappreciated?
Great question.
Okay. What's his name? Got just traded to Los Angeles from St. Louis, the third baseman.
Arenado?
Arenado. A very good player. Very good. But his numbers are skewed by Colorado.
Huh.
Absolutely screwed by. So he's a star, but he's not the superstar he's made out to be. And I remember that year in and year out. Not a very good player. But even at his peak, he was not a great player. Okay.
Interesting.
Okay. As I say, underrated players like Brandon Nimmo. I was going like, you don't know what you've got there. What you have, you don't understand. And I'm going like, just leave him alone. You got what you got. And so if anything, in my mind, I'm trying to think of other players who are just jumped out at me. Obviously, people. I don't think people realize how great Mike Trout was, and modern Babe Ruth. You think Babe Ruth? That's Mike Trout. And I'm not talking about defense. I don't think he was that great a defensive player, even at his peak. Okay, but maybe average, really, maybe a little bit above it here and there, but the offense is Ruthian, and his even with what he's done with all his injuries, he'll still go down along with Ruth and Barry Bonds as the three greatest hitters of all time. Okay, those are the three greatest hitters of all time, and but analysis shows you how you don't put a team together. You had him and Ohtani together, and that team could never go 500. People don't understand that it's the other players that determine if you win. Let's say you had all average players. You're going to be a 500 team. In other words, if they had just all of my average players on that team, without Ohtani, without Trout and everything, they should have been able to win be a 500 team. That shows you how much garbage they put around them. And remember the Seattle teams that had Edgar, they had all those, and they couldn't play 500 with all those stars, with Randy Johnson and everything like that, because putting together the team, if you put a player on there who takes as much runs away as the guy adds, what have you done? What have you done? The rest of the team is what's just as important. The 25th guy on that team is just as important as that first guy. You've got to be able to evaluate the whole. So in order to understand how many runs you're producing, how many runs you're giving up, you have to add in everybody. Okay? And what those two teams were putting all their money into a few players and then ignore the rest of it. Whereas Tampa Bay, they can let their best players go every year. Let them go. But we're smart enough to know how to get decent players to fill in all those places. Because if you have decent players at every position, you're guaranteed almost pretty much a 500 team. So the fans look at the stars. I look at the rest of that team. Okay, it's easy to determine who the star is. But if you don't take care of those rest of the players, you're screwed, because that's who's going to make the difference. When you have to go to your fourth reliever and you don't have a fourth reliever in a league that requires 5 starters and 5 quality relievers, that's what you have to have. Your fifth reliever, the way it's used now, has to be just as important as your fifth starter. Okay? And if you don't have that, when you get past the 6th inning, what happens? What happens when you get past the 5th inning? Yeah, but it's the same thing. So you're looking at the whole team. You have to, if you don't understand all that. So what I do, I've done always my analysis. I take the league, both leagues, every team, balance out every player, and see the runs they're producing or losing for the team. And then balance out the whole league. So the league balances out at 0 runs on the offensive side and 0 runs. And then you can see what they're doing. Like, for instance, the 2024, which is the last year I did, because this year I decided that nobody's listening to me. So
you have a platform now. You got to do it for this year. We got to see the RPA come back.
Okay. So in 2024, Dodgers showed exactly why offense wins World Series. Okay, when I did the World Series for analysis for a whole from 1900, 1 or 2 and whatever, 60% of the time it's the team with the hitting wins, but it's broken into 2 sections. You have super hitting teams that come in. When I did it, there were 14 teams that went into the World Series as super. Their offense was so strong, okay, and only one of them lost the World Series. And I think you should be able to guess who that is. 69.
Giants.
The 69 Orioles to the Mets.
Oh, Orioles.
That was
Okay.
one of the 14 great offensive teams in baseball history, and they were the only one to lose the World Series. Okay,
Wow.
so
I thought you were going to say 2002 San Francisco Giants against the Angels that year when they were hitting.
But what happens is when you have World Series like that series against with neither team being that powerful offense, then that's where pitching comes in more. Is that where you don't have a juggernaut offense, then pitching becomes much more important. And so then it becomes whoever's it's a 50-50 with the pitching and the hitting in that situation. So last year, the Dodgers showed how that hitting works. The offense last year was a juggernaut for the Dodgers, absolute juggernaut. When I did the analysis of their pitching, they were slightly below average league-wise. Their pitching lost 9 runs overall for the season. Okay, so it was typical, like the Big Red Machine. They didn't have any pitching that much. It was simply when you have the overwhelming power, like when you add Kyle Tucker, another, you're saying like in the Mantle or the Ruth Yankees, we are just going to bury you in the World Series. That's where it comes. We the offensive juggernaut can't be stopped. No pitching can hold us in. So it's not always the case, as the Orioles showed in '69. We had the offensive juggernaut, but we fell.
That's just one time in a gazillion years. One time. So if I'm going to build a baseball team, my hot take is hitting, and I'm going to have Troy, Dan, and Mike be our pitchers.
Well, the point is that hitters produce more runs for your team than the pitching does. In a normal season, the top pitcher in the league gets you maybe 20, 25 runs for the season. 5 runs is about a win. So the top pitcher maybe gets you 4 or 5 wins. Extraordinary one might go 30 runs, 6 wins. But it's not uncommon. It's normal in the hitters to be 30 plus and even 50 plus because the real top hitters, they'll go 50 plus, and Ruth went 100 plus. Okay, wow. Mantle in his big year went 73 plus. Okay, you have so when you have that, how that's 73 runs, you can get away with a lot of bad pitching with that 73 runs. And the Yankees in the 50s had a lot of bad pitching. Yes, they had Whitey Ford, but they really had a lot of bad pitching behind that. But they didn't need it. They didn't need it. I mean, you had Mantle, Barrett. You go to look at the lineups with Ruth and Gehrig and all that stuff. It is so what you look at is that plus what did you do with the rest of your position players? What did you do with your bench? Everything counts. Every player who gets to play on the field is going to either add or subtract runs from your team's production. Okay, and even if there's a part-time, your utility player will get 300 at bats during the season. He's going to get a lot of playing time. That utility player better be good. When we were in Montreal, I almost said, yeah, let's have one of our players get injured because I want to see my player who's on the bench because I think he's better. Okay, so because you protected yourself from injuries because you got the guy on the bench, he can play. Okay, so it's a situation where the front offices are not baseball people. Yes, they have their data sections who tell everything. But fundamentally, they're just the representatives of the owner. And the owner only knows money. That's it. He doesn't know who to hire. He doesn't know. He only going to hire the general manager that everybody says is good, because he doesn't have the expertise in the data analysis or the area. The owner is just the guy with a fat cat who's got a money. He prints the check. He determines, however, your success of your team, because he's choosing the guy who's going to choose the players, choose the scouts, choose the data analysis people. So so it is it's a very complex. Baseball is more complex in that way than the other sport. Basketball, you can sort of is not that hard. Just you can see pretty clear. But baseball, the player doesn't play the player. In football, your offensive guard, you can see the player playing, but in baseball, only one team takes the field at a time. So you cannot see the player playing the other player, because only one team takes the field at a time. So you have now to analyze the player against air. Again, you have to analyze the player, and you have to find the controls to take the noise out, to try to figure out who. And then once you have the player, well, how does he fit in with the team? How many runs did he really produce? Where are the holes on our team? Where is the strengths of our team? What do we have? If we got good hitting, but we got our pitching we think is good, but it's not, because it has no depth. We think, we have a real nice 2 starters up here, but you go down the team and those pitchers use up. How many pitchers do you use during a season? All the teams use enormous numbers of pitchers, and they account for a tremendous amount of your run value for that pitching staff. So I mean, your job is to make sure that your 10th, 11th, and 12th pitcher are good pitchers. You don't want, because you're going to have to put them in the game.
See, that was the
and you would not want myself or Dan in the game, even if we're the 12th pitcher. We would be that minus 90. We would be a minus 90 net there.
Well, yeah.
Well, I mean, look, the Dodgers last year went through an incredible number of pitchers, and one of the great stealthy things about the World Series run is they just could endure it and just put out whoever and wait for those guys to get fully healthy and line them all up for the postseason. Because by the time that came, everybody was magically healthy again.
Yes.
So
tricky.
And in the World Series, it's easier. You're using less pitchers, but in the regular season, you can't do that. So it's a compromise you have to do. You have to have a team that is good in the regular season and good in the postseason. You can't ignore both. You can't I'll ignore one for the other. You have to have both, and that's you have to know the quality of your 20th player, your 21st player, your 22nd. You have to know the quality of what you have at AAA, what you have at AA. So.
Speaking of that World Series, Mike, from a data perspective, from an RPA perspective, should the Blue Jays have been that close to the Dodgers in the last World Series? Right,
no,
Game 7, they're leading.
Of course not. It was, I like Toronto's a good team, but it wasn't, a team that you'll remember for the ages. I mean, the Dodgers have on their team player after player that are going to be in the Hall of Fame. You look at that team and you say, wow. But that's mostly on the offense, as I said. The pitching, they have some good pitching at the top, really good pitching, but the depth of their pitching staff is not there. You could see that out of the bullpen last year. You could see, they struggled with their pitching staff depth, And so it's a situation, but they didn't care about that as much. Clearly, they knew they could just be a thug. They just beat
Offense.
everybody.
You said it.
Beat them.
If I'm going to build a team, I'm getting hitters. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah. I want Shohei Ohtani. I want Mookie Betts. I want Kyle Tucker. I want Freddie Freeman. I want Max Muncy. I want Will Smith. I want thugs. I want thugs.
As a Giants fan, that's terrible that those Dodgers have all those guys that you just named.
Imagine a pitcher going through that lineup, trying to figure out, how do I go through that lineup? I don't care who you are. Your eyes are like, oh. I'm going to, I hope I can make it through the fifth inning, sixth.
Bring the big unit back. Dan, get the big unit back.
Bring the big train back. He can do it.
Yeah.
Him too.
Yes. Well, the big train is Clemens is the best pitcher in the history of the game. The big train number 2, the best pitcher in the history of the game. Okay.
Clemens 1, Walter Johnson 2. Huh?
2.
Wow.
Yeah, and talk about great players that people really don't realize how great they were. There was one National Leaguer who, and this was true for both of you, nobody else did this, was, in my numbers, the MVP of the league 9 straight years, from 53 to 61. Think of that. Come up with a name, 53 to 61.
Should have been the MVP 9 years ago.
Eddie Matthews.
Eddie Matthews, no kidding.
Oh, yeah. Eddie Matthews, yes.
Eddie Matthews. Nationally, I have my nationally MVP 9 straight years.
Did he win any of them?
Did he win MVP in any of them?
Yeah.
I doubt it. I mean, this is done by the writers. Sorry, but it's done by the writers. It's done by the writers. I mean, the writers. No.
I love it.
I will say one thing on defensive writers on that one. Nobody knew that. Like, you look at it now and go, oh, it's freaking ridiculous. Look at his OPS. Look at his WAR. Look at those things didn't exist. Now, if you miss.
Yes, but the point is, the writers thought they were the experts. And they were mostly New York.
No, but
right?
back then, the same things.
Yeah.
I'm looking at that to see if he won. Is any he
People
was
knows.
second in MVP voting in 53.
Okay.
In his first
and
year.
again in 59 and a couple other top 20 finishes, but never won it.
Even though he should have won it 9 straight years.
Yeah. He should have won it 9 straight years. That's a good fun fact there.
Yeah. During that period, there was also the pitchers 5 straight years for a pitcher in that area. This time, a little bit earlier, Robin Roberts.
Robert.
I think it was from 50 to 55. I think it was like in that year. He was the best pitcher until I think it was Don Newcomb in 56 took it. So
that's great. So real fast, the last thing, we're winding the show, but you mentioned Clemens and Walter Johnson as the best 2 pitchers. Best hitter. Who are the best 2 hitters?
Well, whether you have Ruth, Bonds, and I'm sure Trout, if I had brought my numbers up to now, that would be the number 1, 2, and 3, period.
Ruth and Bonds, not surprised by that, but today I learned something new. Dan, I don't know if you knew Trout was this, in terms of stats and all that. I know
his years, I think he was averaging probably well over 50 runs per year in value. I mean, I think he had, maybe I'd have to look it up. Maybe he probably had years even as higher than Mantle's 73 run years. I mean, that's how good he was, and he pulled up numbers incredible. Of course, his body broke down, but that doesn't take away because he still produces some. But those years were just Enormous, absolutely
I
enormous.
should have made that fantasy baseball trade when I had Tim Salmon and somebody said, "Hey, I'll trade you Tim Salmon for Mike Trout," but I didn't make that
By
trade.
the way, Troy Neal beat out Tim Salmon for the batting title in the Pacific Coast League.
Oh,
That's who they.
interesting.
Oh,
Okay, and Troy Neal was at the pitcher's ballpark. Salmon was hitting at one of the top hitters' ballpark in the Pacific Coast League, and he still beat him. Beat Salmon for the batting title.
I think I had
Yeah.
Troy Neal on one of my fantasy teams.
Yeah.
Oakland A, yeah, Oakland
Yes,
A.
Yeah.
yes. And
Well, Mike, this has been
sorry.
this has been amazing to have you on the show.
Mm.
And by the way, Mike, I seriously think do your RPA for 2026, and let's talk about that. I would love to see what you're going to come up with, and I hope you're going to come up with a team that's going to snipe those Dodgers and take them down a peg or
So
two.
I would have to do. I'll go. It takes about 6 weeks. It's a lot of work. That's why I didn't do it. It takes about. This is not where you throw a little formula at it and you come up with this. Forget it. I have to go 6 weeks of hard work to do all the numbers. The biggest part is the defense. Because especially with players who play multiple positions, and you have to take the difference at each position to totally see how they contributed to the team. That's not easy.
And the stadiums and the weather too. So, Mike, we should get you hooked up with a Gemini, a Google Gemini developer to do a gem for you. The AI will. You just pour all the numbers in, and you give it the coaching, man. AI used for good.
Okay,
Here, right now.
if you do that for me,
Okay.
I'll have it all up for you. A week later, you can enter, and I can go through every single team, offense,
Okay.
defense, pitching, balance, where their strengths are, where their wins, whether their record in 2025 equaled what they should have done. Because I've had a situation where, like when Philadelphia surprised, they didn't win, but they went to the World Series. I showed in my
Oh, yeah.
analysis that they were actually had underperformed. They were the better team to begin with. They just had underperformed. So when they got to the playoffs, they were the legitimate team to go. And so I've seen that happen a number of times. When you'll see teams that really underperformed, or a team like in 2024, Colorado overperformed. They were actually worse than the White Sox. That broke the Mets record, right? But they were worse. So that predates what they did in 25. It showed that's actually they overperformed, and then they really died this past year. So
I'll tell you, that's pretty funny. They they win like 30 games or something.
I think they got to 40. I think they did get. They won some games at the end of the season to get themselves up to 41 or something like that. But all during the first half of the season, which reflects the previous season. The first half of the reflects the who they had from the previous. They were struggling to get to 20 wins. Forget about it.
No, I remember. That would have been a hot take right there. Mike Kimball says the Colorado Rockies are overperforming.
Yes, because at least the White Sox, when they won, their pitching wasn't all that bad. I mean, just their offense was as bad as in the history of the game, but their pitching really wasn't. It was below average. It was below average, but it wasn't that much worse than the Dodgers pitching. Okay,
so the Dodgers pitching, wow, that's another hot take. The White Sox pitching was just like the Dodger pitching.
Not just it was worse but it wasn't that much worse. Yeah. So, but the difference between the two teams, the Dodgers offense, and the White Sox hitting, they couldn't find first base, let alone home plate.
They couldn't find first base. See, I told you, Mike's funny. They couldn't find first base. The best Mike story, though, Mike, when we would be bidding on our players for fantasy baseball, and I think it was Dustin Pedroia, I don't know, maybe Nomar. No, it was Nomar. And somebody said to Mike, "Hey, Nomar, is Nomar going to be good this year?" And Mike laughs. "You're asking me? Ha ha ha! You're asking me? Yeah, he's going to be so good. He's going to hit in front of and in back of Movon. Ha ha ha!" And the person just like, "Whoa, what just happened here?"
Well, the same thing happened because you remember Boston media attacked me fiercely, and
yeah, Mike Greenwell.
And one of the things they got on because Nomar was he was replacing a star player, shortstop, and so the media came at me. Well, how good is the Nomar? And they made fun of the fact that how he's going to be fantastic. He's going to I'm going like he's going to be this that and so they took look at this, he's crazy man. He was I think I
you were right.
I was right. I mean, right. I looked at his AA numbers, even though it was only like 150 at bats or so, but they were so off the scale. I looked at those numbers and said, "Oh, we got to move." I forget who the star short. We got this is not somebody. Yeah, you move the guy. We can get good talent from him and replace him with somebody who's even better. So you do two things. See, you're doing two things. You're getting the talent from the other team for another position that you need, and you're going to have somebody even better at that position. That's how you use the minor league system properly. You steal from the other team's quality players that they don't realize that they have, and you keep the quality players that you have in the minor league. I remember when Manny Ramirez and Jim Thome were down at AA at Harrisburg. No, we were at Harrisburg. They were they were both in the Eastern League. I called up Dan and said, "Cleveland has 2 Hall of Famers down at AA. Please call. You're right. Call Cleveland. Do you think that they might? We can steal. It's I mean, it was like flags coming out. Ooh. Same way with Andrew Jones or Vladimir Guerrero. I was interviewed on the local when they were both about to come up in the Montreal station. I was being interviewed. I was telling them, "Well, you've got a Hall of Famer down in the minor leagues called Vlad Guerrero. He's going to be a Hall of Famer." So a listener calls in and said, "Oh yeah. What about who else is coming up?" I said, "Andrew Jones is coming up for Atlanta. He's going to be a Hall of Famer." And the air went out on the other guy and said, "Well, how do you compare Andrew Jones to Vladimir?" "Well, Vladimir is going to be a Hall of Famer. Andrew Jones will be first ballot." And they said, "Oh no, not another one." That's right. It's you have it was easy pickings back then. For us,
harder now though.
For both in Boston and in Montreal, we took over last place teams and contended immediately on both cases. Okay, so because the teams didn't know what they had. Now they do to a much more greater extent.
Well done. Well said. Mike, thank you for joining us. This has been amazing. And I will circle up with you offline and let's see what we can do with RPA and GEM, and it'll make it a lot easier for you. Okay.
It'll take a few weeks to pull the data together because it's not easy. It's not a simplistic thing. I'll throw a formula at it. Yeah. But of course, if you have an AI guy who wants to get it, I don't want to have ownership over it. I have what should be a gift. I didn't want to become a GM or anything. I started to doing this only because of people around me. I was a union leader. Okay, I was an executive board member of a major union, New York City Union, and before I ever gotten involved in it, I was always annoyed by people coming up and asking me about players because they knew I knew baseball. Right. So one year I just wrote out a few pages of my analysis and gave it out. And some of these people were very prominent people. And I didn't think anything else. They all came back to me and hammered. I had to publish. I had to publish. I had to publish. I have to contact the Yankees. I got to do this. I got to do that. And they forced me into doing what I did. I had no intention of being one of the pioneers in the game, but it just happened.
Amazing. That's a great story. I love that story.
Yeah, I actually produced a book only to get them. It was going to be a one-time thing. Go away. Don't bother me. I self-published it. That's it. But Sabre that year had their conference in Cleveland. My wife was from Cleveland. We had friends in Cleveland. So I decided I would go to that great Society of American Baseball Research as this little guy with his little books. I will learn from them. Okay. Second day at the conference, I walked back to my wife sitting next to the books. I slammed my hand down on the table and it said, Vidi, Vidi, Vici. These people have to learn from me. And this is a billion-dollar industry, and they got to learn from me.
That's amazing.
I got it. This. I have to continue. The book that I did was just to get rid of people. Now it changed everything. And my whole life has been like that, serendipitous. I know,
and we just scratched the tip of your life. So I mean, we could talk for 3 more hours about the things you've been doing. Yeah. But I do remember the first book. I remember it. It had RPA in it. It was awesome. So let's see if we could do something here. AI makes things a lot easier.
Oh, sure.
And let's see what we can do. All right.
Great. It sounds wonderful.
Awesome. Well, Mike, thank you again for taking the time to join Dan and I. I think Dan's off grid. So we will bid everybody out there watching. I'm going to cut this stuff up, Mike. There's some really good footage here. So that being said, thank you again, Mike. Dan, see you later. And we'll have Taylor run us out here. And hopefully we get enough copyright strikes. All right. See y'all. Thanks, Mike.
Bye.
Take care. Have a good weekend.
Okay, bye.